1587, a group of English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, off of what is now modern-day North Carolina. They were part of England's first real attempt to create a colony in North America. When supply ships returned to the colony 3 years later, the settlers were gone nowhere to be found. Only a single word was left behind, carved on a tree: Croatoan. The English settlers believed they had legal permission to take land in North America. Queen Elizabeth had granted Sir Walter Raleigh a royal charter, which claimed that large areas of North American land were for the monarchy. Under English rule, owning land meant complete control. But to the indigenous peoples, like the Secotean and Croatoan, land was communal. It was shared by the community, not something you could own. This legal difference created conflict. The English saw land for promising colonies. The indigenous people saw ancestral lands. This is one of the first sources of tension, through misunderstandings of land and ownership. Cultural differences increased these tensions even more. The English were ruled under monarchy, Christianity, and class. They believed their culture was superior, and they hoped to convert indigenous people to their ways of life. But the indigenous had already established their own complex societies with spiritual beliefs and leadership systems. They made decisions through councils and respected spiritual traditions tied to nature. Even when communication was peaceful, these differences created confusion. What the English saw as generosity, some indigenous groups saw as dictatorship. What the English viewed as resistance, some tribes saw as self-defense. At first, trade helped build trust. The English brought metal tools, cloth, and beads. The indigenous people offered food, furs, and knowledge of surrounding areas and land. But Roanoke settlers soon fell into famine. They expected to rely on trade or help, but as supplies ran low, they became desperate. Some settlers began stealing food from nearby tribes. Others demanded more than fair. This violated indigenous values of fair trade and respect. What was first economic opportunity soon turned into conflict. By 1586, the situation had worsened. English commander Ralph Lane believed the indigenous leader Wingina was plotting against the colony. So Lane attacked, killing Wingina and burning their village. This act destroyed any remaining trust between the groups. The English saw it as a military move. The indigenous saw it as betrayal and a misuse of land. When John White returned in 1587 with new settlers, the colony was unstable. Food was scarce, tensions were high. White left to get food supplies from England in order to help the settlers. The war with Spain delayed him for 3 years. When he finally returned in 1590, the settlement was gone. All that was left was a single word carved into a nearby tree: Croatoan. This was the name of a nearby island and the indigenous people who lived there, who were former allies of the settlers. Some historians believe the colonists may have joined the Croatoan tribe to survive through winter. Others think they died from hunger, disease, or war. There is no proof of one true theory, but what's clear is that by 1590, the relationship between the English and natives had been decimated. Their legal, cultural, and economic misunderstandings pushed tensions to the limit and may be the reason for their disappearance. Roanoke is Roanoke, remembered as the lost colony. The English settlers brought their own systems of rights, responsibilities, and beliefs, which conflicted with that of the indigenous peoples who already lived on the land. Those differences led to tension and conflict. The story of Roanoke reminds us that survival depends not just on resources, but on a cooperation of rights and responsibilities.